we have not gotten any fruit of our sacrifices. It has just disappeared like that. I just encourage him. Namwambia asidi kukimbia. Na ninategemea sana Mungu.
Kuja. Chukuma. Kuja.
God, you know these things hatukuiba. Mungu tusaidie, uturejeshe. Na namwambia just run. The door will not open. I just encourage him, though I see he's affected, but I just encourage him. I just there tell him, don't give up. Something will happen one day, and we shall get back our finance. The far we have struggled, I do not know how our future will be, because whatever he had chenye alikuwa amepata katika wakati alikuwa bado anaweza kukimbia, we have lost.
It's 5 a.m. and this is the daily ritual of Daniel Kipchirchir Komen. He rarely sleeps well, so milking the cows before daybreak while everyone is asleep keeps him busy as his mind drifts into a riot of thoughts that have drained every ounce of confidence in him to bounce back to run again. Why? He claims he lost all the money he earned in athletics over the years. Komen is supposed to be in a training camp, but now finds himself stuck in his house. Life has taken a turn for the worst for an athlete who has represented Kenya 97 times in the 1500-meter race across the globe. Komen made good money from Madrid to Stuttgart, Dakar to Shanghai in the indoor as well as outdoor championships. His career projection and ranking as one of the most promising Kenyan athletes was about to propel him to become one of the greatest in the history of the sport. As he prepares to leave his house, he is fully aware his best days are already behind him. Competing at the highest level today is his biggest challenge. Daniel Komen has been struggling with form for the last few years. His last competitive race on the world stage was in 2011 in Daegu, South Korea World Championship in the semi-final of the 1500-meter race. Komen didn't qualify for the final. He finished 6th. As he joins a group of other athletes in training in Mosoriot, Eldoret County, the pursuit of one more race in China in January 2017 is what brings him here every day. That race is not just for the country or the pride of his exuberant career, but to make money and sustain his young struggling family. 5 years out in the cold and at 32 years of age, Komen knows pretty well he's playing catch-up with the young blood, all competing for the same prize. Today, they are running 15-kilometer speed work. Eldoret is the perfect climate for training due to the high altitude. But for Komen, there is a problem. A torn calf muscle stands between him and the Hong Kong race.
Hii muscle imeanza kuwa shida kidogo kwa sababu kitambo nilikuwa na pesa, nilikuwa nikijiweza, nilikuwa niko na physiotherapist baada ya kumaliza speed work na long run, nilikuwa nanitibu muscles na kuona kwamba niko fit kukimbia 1500 meters. Lakini kwa sasa hii imekuwa imenilemea kiasi ya kutoweza kutafuta physiotherapist wakati nimesikia kama calf muscle imeanza. So ni ile kutafuta vijana hawa wadogo waweze kunishikia ingawaje hawana experience ama education ya massage.
Komen wants to do the impossible. Instead of running 1500 meters, he has decided to beat all odds and try the 42-kilometer marathon. the voice of his biggest fan and cheerleader, his wife, is the only source of encouragement.
I just encourage him. Mwambie jaribu. Usikae sasa ukikaa tutakula nini. Try. Na encourage tu. Because kuna time yenye huwa is totally down. But namwambia tujaribu tu. Tujaribu tutafute.
Daniel and Dorothy Komen were born and raised in the same village and even went to the same primary school in Eldama Ravine. Growing up was tough. Komen struggled with school fees because he came from a poor family. During school holidays, he often dug pit latrines to raise money for fees and help his family. Daniel and Dorothy were childhood sweethearts. He focused on running and Dorothy cheered him on. His first break was when he won the Best Athlete of the Year at Timboroa High School. He won a school fees sponsorship and a storybook. The sweet victory was only the beginning. He never looked back.
Sasa nilimjua akiwa ana passion ya kukimbia because he could run in high school and he was a star. So I came to know him, he was passionate of running.
Komen was tired of poverty and wanted to make a difference. Surrounded by great names in the world of athletics, he finished high school and decided to concentrate on running. The audacity of faith to eclipse the records of his childhood heroes, Paul Tergat and Kipchoge Keino, put him at loggerheads with destiny, and he opted to pursue his dream and go back to school later on.
He was telling me his life, if he could run, he could live a good life.
Daniel and Dorothy Komen finally got engaged 1st January 2010 in Eldama Ravine. The couple were destined for a great future.
And then when I got married, vile alikuwa anatoka, it was very smart because I could accompany him to the airport. Angeenda kukimbia, ningemwona kwa TV. At times ningeamuka hata usiku ni muwatch akikimbia. It was very nice. And then when he was coming back, ningeenda kumlaki airport. At times tungeenda na watoto.
For Daniel Komen, the sky was not even the limit. One race after another. He wanted more. He made money, a lot of it, and prepared to settle down and enjoy with his young family. His medals and trophy cabinet still speak volumes of a young athlete who made the country proud in many races across the world. That incredible career has gone down in one of the saddest riches to rags story. Daniel Komen, despite earning millions of shillings, is now haunted by the ghosts of his childhood. Poverty has come knocking. From earning at least 35,700,000 Kenya shillings, he has no investment and now has a depleted bank account. Who is to blame? Komen alleges it is this man. Isaac Kipkemei Terer, his lawyer and financial manager, who he now claims conned him.
Kulitokea mwaka wa 2008 wakati nilikuwa nimetoka kukimbilia Kenya katika World Indoor Championship huko Spain, Valencia. Baada ya kutoka huko nilikuwa nimeshinda silver kwa mita 1500. Nikaingia Eldoret, nilikuwa na lawyer ambaye alikuwa mshauri wangu wa pile jinsi ya kuinvest katika hii kaunti ya Gishu.
Isaac Kipkemei Terer is currently the Speaker of the County Assembly of Uasin, Gishu. Komen claims his troubles started on 8th of April 2008 when he was advised to purchase a property valued at 12 million Kenya shillings.
Niliandikia ya mahali pa kuishi 5 million Terer, alafu nikaandikia Paul's Cookiesman 4 million, Nikakaa siku 2 ama 3 hivi, nikaandikia tena another bankers check ya 5 million, ikakuwa 9 million kwa Paul's Cookies Man. Alafu Terer nikamwambia sina sasa pesa ya kuweza kutoshea kununua ile 12 property ya 12 million kwa sababu nimelipa already 9 million na nilikuwa na ufungufu ya 3 million.
Komen was advised by his lawyer to transfer the money to an account held by Paul Cookies Man Limited, which he did on the 22nd of April 2008. He was later given a sale agreement form of the transfer of the property to his name. The transfer of the money went smoothly, but looking at the sale agreement, he later was told by another lawyer there was a problem. His lawyer's name was on the agreement as a purchaser of the same property.
Tukaenda na Terer, tukapata agreement imetolewa, iko kwa meza. Kuona jina la Terer iko kama kwa sababu lawyer aliniambia mmenunua shamba kama mmechanga na Terer. Sasa nikauliza Terer, mbona iko jina lako hapo, ungekuwa upande yangu kama witness? Akaniambia hii ni makosa tu kidogo, hakuna shida kwa sababu already titles hii shamba sio itatoka na jina langu.
Later, that piece of property he bought was occupied by other people and has become a legal issue.
Terer ameenda nyuma yangu kwa kuweka ile jina lake kama tumefanya contribution na yeye. Alafu akatumia tena kuuza hizo maplots yote. Kama sijui kama imeuzwa yote kwa sababu kuna yenye iko pakan, kuna yenye imefungwa, na huyu mtu aseme ukweli kwa sababu ameniambia shamba ya Nakuru kesi bado iko kotini. Shamba ile titles haijatoka kwa sababu inatoka Nakuru, Nairobi. Sasa amekuwa akinichanganya kwa sababu imekuanga ngumu. So ukipiga ofisi yake hakuna mwenye anakuongelesha.
For the better part of that year, Komen was advised to transfer money from one account to another, including his lawyer's law firm, in purchase of other properties in Uasin, Gishu. As checks in millions kept flying around in the hope of finding the perfect investment, Komen relied on what he was told. In this 2006 affidavit drawn by his new lawyer, Komen believes that his former advocate knowingly took advantage of the trust he put in him and squandered his hard-earned money. His wife struggled to come to terms with what she calls a painful experience.
Watoto wangu akiwa hiyo hali. And the way we had got blessed. And then all of a sudden somebody scoops. I feel very painful. Especially I sympathize with my kids. Because at times kuna wakati it is very painful because alikuwa anaenda mazoezi alikuwa anapiga sana, angeenda kwa hospitali.
Dorothy is 30 years old now. Embarrassed by a lack of college education, after supporting her husband and saving up money to invest in business, she says her plans to go back to school after getting married are now shattered. Everything she worked hard for has gone down the drain.
Nimefikiria mambo mengi, lakini ninasema tu it is very painful. Because saa zingine ninakaa nikiwaza you end up losing appetite, losing weight, which is, I don't know, imekuwa ngumu sana. Hii maisha imekuwa ngumu sana. So, but I just nachipa tu moyo nikisema kwamba ni Mungu tu. He will say last through. one day one time ni Mungu atatuonekania. Because the family is still young. And tumeanza vizuri, lakini all of a sudden it's just happening. So it is very painful.
Maisha yangu ilikatika tu abruptly na ikakuwa kama kusimama tu, kwa sababu mimi sikuwa nimefanya investment yoyote, kwa sababu nilikuwa nikitarajia kwa sababu Kenya ukinunua shamba kwa town inaendanga juu, haiteremuki chini. Sasa lengo yangu ilikuwa kwa sababu kama ningeanza mbio biashara zingine, mbio ingekatika. So hapo ndio nikasema waje hii pesa yangu yote itoke kwa account ninunue hii assets, ili angalau siku yenye nitaenda retire nikuje niuze hii asset na aanze kufanya biashara zingine kama real estate, kwa sababu ile ilikuanga kwa roho yangu. So imekuwa ngumu kwa sababu ni kama nimekatiwa tu maisha abruptly.
I met the man blamed for creating this whole mess, Isaac Kipkemei Terer, who is planning to run for political office in Uasin, Gishu County. What was your relationship with the athlete, Daniel Komen? And what sort of engagement did you have with him in these transactions that now he's claiming that you conned him over 20 million Kenya shillings when you were his lawyer and his financial advisor?
My relationship with Daniel Komen was that one of a friend and two of a client, advocate-client relationship. And before we actually engaged in either of the two relationships, I got to know of him when he had a social and legal problem. Subsequently, he engaged my law firm, Terer and Company Advocates, to conduct a number of transactions on his behalf in the sense of advocate-client relationship. And those transactions involved the purchase of a piece of land where he stays, his current residence, and a number of other properties which are not contested. But then somewhere along the line, we came closer and we became friends. And he proposed that he had some money, which he thought we could do something with it. So he proposed, and I agreed that we get into some business. I am the one who said, fine, the business we can do would be, we can buy and speculate on land. Actually, that we get into a joint venture business of buying and selling land. But since he wouldn't be available most of the time, I would take the management bit of this business.
Do you have any written agreement as business partners that you are in business together when you're purchasing these pieces of land?
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. And maybe that is the mistake I may have done. But I trusted him. He trusted me. This was a friend-to-friend agreement.
But as a lawyer, do you think that was an omission on your end, knowing that perhaps something like this would have come up eventually?
Not necessarily. Not necessarily.
Komen disagrees they were ever business partners, including agreeing to the insertion of his name as joint partners in acquiring a property worth 12 million Kenya shillings.
Why he would not have complained all along, yet he had seen this agreement?
He says you convinced him as his lawyer that it wasn't an issue.
Is he declining that we went to a lawyer, signed it before a lawyer as joint purchasers? He is not. And I'm saying this is as a result of, it's an afterthought. Why would he not take me to a police station for investigation that I fraudulently inserted my name into some agreement? He knows the fact that we did everything in good faith. It was all about a business transaction. When it didn't take root is how we ended up in this.
The semantics of the case between Komen and his lawyer goes beyond an aggrieved athlete and his money. The home of champions has tales of many other athletes living in deplorable conditions after spending millions in either wrong investments, spendthrifts, or even getting conned of their hard-earned money. How serious is this problem amongst athletes?
When I was starting, I lost money also when I was investing in Nairobi. At one point, I remember I lost 600,000 to a con. Somebody told me that he was going to do a project for me. He did some few things, and then after that, he disappeared completely to date. I don't know where he disappeared. So it happens, but once bitten, twice shy.
In the same year of 2008, when Daniel Komen lost all his money, Wilfred Kipkemboi Bungei was winning big in the Summer Olympics in Beijing, China. He won gold in the 800 meters and ranked as the 7th fastest runner in the history of the event. He was a champion, but his winning ways in the track events got the better of him, and admittedly, he started drowning. Too much money, one would assume, would make one happy, but for Bungei, it turned into depression.
I was one athlete, who lived a life of an athlete 365 days in a year for more than 10 years. And as soon as I was done, there was nothing much to do. There was nothing that would feel the things that I was doing. And that is why I put it to fellow athletes that, I think it is very well, or it is good that you plan your life just, let's say a year. If you know that you are going to retire in the next 1 year or two, sometimes you do not know. Some of us are being forced by injuries, to retire. But when you know that, at least you prepare yourself to know what you are going to do immediately. Look, let me tell you this, one and something that really changed for me to decide that it's enough. I remember my kids would not enter into the car once they realized I had drink. And I realized this is a torture for them. You can imagine if a kid can just say, hey, you know what, I can't enter into that car, Daddy has drink. And you know very well that one, it's bad. Okay, with my family, they underwent hell. Once I started the 7 days, they knew day one, they would know that we have 7 days of hell, for the next 7 days. And you know what? I would go for 3 months clean, no drinking. And I would be like, I would not touch. But the moment I go out, I say, okay, maybe just a class. It never became a class. It will be just a whole week. It could be a 5 liters of wine. It could be a liter of vodka. It could be 2 liters of gin, whatever, name it.
And you wasted a lot of money?
Absolutely. I mean, not even what I was drinking. For me, my story is not about how much did I lose when I was drinking. It's how much did I, lost, to, let's say, because it was easy for me. I had just retired. I still had some cash. Fortunately, I never touched on the properties. I still had some cash, and that is why, I would have, 100,000. But by the same evening, I do not know where the money went. I would have maybe 1,000 or 2,000. So it was more of losing the money, losing the cash, not spending the cash.
The turning point for Bungei was the tragic death of Olympic hero Samuel Wanjiru. The two-time winner of World Marathon Majors found himself at crossroads between 2008 and 2010 when he won major jackpots, cashing in so much money that he was spending more time in bars than training or at home. It is estimated that Samuel Wanjiru was worth slightly over 500 million Kenya shillings just within 3 years. Like Bungei, Wanjiru became an alcoholic and he became a prisoner of his own fortune.
The same night, that he passed on was the same day that, or the day before. It happens that I drink a whole bottle of vodka, the 750 ml. All of it, and I black out. I was rushed to hospital, and so many people actually came to the hospital. But anyway, I was put on IV, and I can tell you that, after that I was taken back home. Around 5 in the morning, there is a boy that we were living together. He was living in my house, and I remember that he knocked the door, at around 5. And I was like, what's up? Of course, I was still a little bit drunk myself, because you can imagine, after consuming 750 ml of vodka, it was a suicide.
This was dry, or you're mixing it with
dry,
other drinks?
Completely dry. And that's why I black out, actually. And I can tell you this, that, when I was told Samuel has passed on.
This is the little boy who told you that?
Yes, the little boy is the one who came in, and then he told me, Wilfred, actually, when he came in and knocked the door vigorously, I was like, what's up? And when I opened the door, I said, you know what, Wilfred, Samuel has just passed on. And I remember I just closed the door, went back, and cried. I cried not because of anything, but I cried because I felt that it was not Samuel that was supposed to die on that day, but me.
Samuel Wanjiru died on 15th of May 2011, aged just 24. The cause of death has never been fully established. Police said Wanjiru's wife, Teresa Njeri, found him in bed with another woman. She locked the couple in the bedroom and ran outside. Wanjiru then leapt from the balcony, and police are unsure if Wanjiru intended suicide or jumped out of rage. The quick money and the people who surrounded him stalking his ego watched Samuel Wanjiru self-destruct.
That guy was not supposed to die, I can tell you that. But unfortunately, he never got somebody who were able to help. And had he realized that he had a drinking problem, I can tell you, Wanjiru would be alive today.
Shylocks have invaded Eldoret County in droves. The prime targets are athletes who need emergency loans, many times in large quantities to maintain certain lifestyles. A Shylock who didn't want to be identified told NTV the pressure to conform is always the downfall of many athletes who end up losing their cars or properties after failing to pay up in good time. Some even anticipate winning races to pay back money owed to the Shylocks, and when they fail, things get ugly.
Rafiki yangu mwingine alienda na gari, akaenda akaomba hiyo pesa. Kufika nyumbani bibi anamuuliza gari iko wapi, anadanganya bibi gari iko Karachi, nafanya nini? Napigwa rangi, na si ati ilikuwa na hiyo story. Kidogo mtu akashikwa na stress, na hiyo pesa yenye alichukua ikumsaidia, alichukua pesa akaenda akadanganya na watu kusema washosha akawashwa. Kaenda dogo mtu akataka kujinyonga, so ikabidi that community wakwambia tukakutana tukamchangia tukarudisha tu gari. Hayo wengine wanaweza chukua kitu nyumbani, title deed, bibi ajui, kuja masaini, final cases zinatoka, bibi anakuja nasema hata sikujua, sikufanya nini.
Many athletes have lost money in the hands of conmen who fraudulently obtain money and pretend to print out equal amounts and share in the proceeds.
Yes, it is very serious. I can tell you that, that's why it's unfortunate that sometimes people think our athletes, they make money and then after that they are leading certain lives. But it is because of the people also that sometimes they trust them. It's the people that they think they're investing for them, but in reality they aren't.
Though Daniel Comment didn't admit to us that he had been a victim of wash, one Shylock said he fell prey to the scam at one time and lost money, besides spending money on non-existent pieces of land.
Daniel Comment issue has just come out. But there are so many athletes, that are suffering and they are in the same situation that Daniel is. And I would say this, that unfortunately, many people, they think that, okay, I can be able to help these athletes. But in reality, they are not. They are always, in there for their own benefit. And as I said, Daniel Comment, as I know him, we were working in the same manager. I know him when he was starting because he just found me. I had already competed. But surprisingly, he's being forced at the moment still to go back and run. Why? Because everything is wiped out. And as I said, this is not an isolated case. It's happening every now and then. I know of so many athletes, that have suffered the same. They entrust people and they think that they are doing a project for them. But in the end, there is nothing.
Me personally, I sometimes think of how these things went. Vile tumenyang'anywa, yani ninakaa tu bila kukula. Even you see hii mwili sio yetu hii. Ni vile nikujana mambo mengi yenye tunawaza ni siku gani Mungu tutarejeshewa hizi vitu zetu. Tuishi at least maisha yenye tunafurahia pamoja na watoto wetu.
Back at home, Daniel Comment's two children are getting ready for school. The firstborn is 7 years old and the second is just 5. Oblivious of what their father's medals mean, they have become toys to them, but a reminder of shattered dreams to their father. Dangling hopes of a better life, now a far distant dream. This was not how their mother wanted them to live as they get ready to go to school.
Wakati alikuwa bado anaweza kukimbia, we have lost. And now ndio watoto wanakuwa, they cannot get a good life because shule wanatembea na mguu. In fact, I take them every morning to school, 2 kilometers. Namweka mdogo kwa mgongo, ni kumpeleka. Ya tulikuwa tumebarikiwa. At times kuna vitu yenye wanajitakia waishi maisha mazuri, lakini they cannot get.
Unfortunately for Komen and his young family, a bleak future is what they have to deal with.
Wametuchukulia hivyo, kutunyang'anya just everything. Hata hakuna yenye alibakisha aseme waende na hiyo, just everything.
Dennis Okari, NTV.